Michigan, born in Bay City, and the family within a few years moved to Pontiac, Michigan, and ultimately to Rochester, where she went through our public schools.
When I was very young, nothing really mattered to me.
She lost her mother, whose name was Madonna, when she was a child of 5 years old. And this was a traumatic time for the whole family to lose their mother.
I'll never be the same because of you.
She was in kindergarten Catholic school at the time, and when her records were shipped along to the public schools, the nuns wrote, "Madonna needs a lot of extra love at this time."
Nothing really matters. Love is all we need.
She kind of thought, being the oldest, that she would take her mom's place, you know, do the cooking, the cleaning, kind of take care of the family. And instead, Dad brought home this, quote, other woman.
Her father met and married Joan Ciccone.
She always resented that woman coming in, kind of the interloper.
From every appearance, they had a good relationship.
I don't want to say about the evil stepmother.
A lot of caring, a lot of mutual trust, respect.
Madonna was supposed to go home and babysit Mario on Friday night. So I would call the stepmother and say, all the cheerleaders have to be at these after-game dances and wear their uniforms. What do you tell her, Mom? She had to be here as part of the cheerleading requirement so she could be here to dance. True.
Madonna was actually a great student in school.
She's always been driven to please her dad.
She was in the top 10% of the range of intelligence. She was really active in a lot of school activities, both in the classroom and in the extracurricular, from helping to found the first chapter of the thespian group to cheerleader, Big Brother-Sister program called Help a Kid, where she actually was a mentor for some of the elementary school children. She was able to get along with all kinds of kids, from the very serious students to the most artistic.
She blended in. Most of the time, like every other kid, she wanted to blend.
Madonna wore flesh-colored tights when she did some of her gymnastics, flips and tumbles. It gave the illusion that perhaps nothing was there.
We used to use a mini tramp. She hit the mini tramp and flipped up. And it was more hit up than basketball coach we had. He was just shocked. The shocked look on his face. He would watch our cheers more than coach's team at the time.
Madonna came into my class as a junior, and she sat right in front of me, and I focused completely on her, and she engaged me, and then later that engagement intensified.
Marilyn was kind of like a mother figure and had been through a lot, and she'd lost a lot of relatives in Europe, so she kind of identified with the loss that Madonna went through.
Madonna took several courses from her in philosophy, ancient history, American history, and unbeknownst to many of us, kept correspondence with her long after she left high school, and they would share very intellectual, thought-provoking, philosophical letters.
This is a photograph that she gave to me when she graduated high school. Mrs. Fellows, I cannot begin to tell you how I feel about you, and how I shall always treasure your words of encouragement. Sometimes I think you might explode with so much energy inside of you. I think you're crazy, and I'm madly in love with your craziness, and of course you, Madonna.
We had a talent show during her 10th grade year of high school, and Madonna chose to dance. It was our first glimpse of her wearing capris and showing a little midriff, and we were like, okay, what's going to happen now? What did happen was she was a phenomenally great dancer. Strutted her stuff, a little risque, but her dance quality in the art took over, and she was the hit of the talent assembly.
She used to come in our office. We used to make her dance all the time for us. We'd put on music, and Madonna would give us a little dance recital on the spot.
I had to make a film for film class. I just referred to it as the egg film. I think I just said, do you want to be in a movie? And she said, sure. She didn't have a problem with it whatsoever. She just went ahead and did it and did a great job. that's not really about anything. It's pretty clear that even at that age, she was willing to do quite a bit in front of the camera, including eat a raw egg. She was babysitting at somebody's house. And so the film is actually made on the redwood deck, off of the room while the baby was asleep. She was kind of withdrawn in certain ways, and then she was kind of social in certain ways. She kept to herself, but she was also a cheerleader, so she seemed to have almost like two sides to her personality. I don't think anybody could quite figure her out. She was a little bit of an enigma, and to me that made her all the more interesting. We used to drive around in my 73 Capri listening to my 8-track deck singing The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, which was her favorite album and my favorite album at that time. I remember loaning her Lady Chatterley's Lover, which, as I recall, she liked quite a bit, maybe a sign of things to come. What I remember most clearly about her from high school was that she was a better dancer than anyone in our school by far. And when she would start dancing at a school dance, people would just back away and watch her because nobody had ever seen anyone dance quite like that.
The thing I believe that set Madonna apart from many of the other talented kids in school is that she worked longer and harder at her dance. She was the student who got in a car, drove 25 miles to Detroit while other kids were maybe out goofing around. She was doing dance and practicing endless hours.
I always thought she'd be a big dancer on Broadway with a major show.
Christopher Flynn was Madonna's primary influence during her high school years. He was her dance teacher. This is a man who truly loved and cared and promoted her success. Story has it that Madonna used to go to some of the clubs in Detroit with Christopher Flynn, where she got exposed to a lot of different people, lifestyles, and got to see a variety of dance moves that were street.
First time I saw Madonna, she was 16 years old. I was actually interviewing her ballet teacher to see if I wanted to bring her to the University of Michigan. So I went out to Rochester to his dance studio, and there were 3 students in the class, and Madonna was one of them. She was so beautiful and so lithe and so small, and her lines were gorgeous. I ended up hiring Christopher Flynn, who she adored.
I guess the most memorable visit Madonna made to my office was during her senior year when she was applying for a dance scholarship at University of Michigan. I think Madonna chose University of Michigan in the School of Dance because Christopher Flynn was there, and he gave her great encouragement to follow along and basically sent the message to her, stay with me, I'll help mentor you, I will teach you.
Coming up, the film that Madonna didn't want people to see.
And cultivating her unique image since the day she was born.
She has the soul of an artist.
It's like she was her own canvas and hyper aware of what people were seeing and feeling about her.
Madonna, I think, was always trying to get a reaction out of people.
I came to the University of Michigan from a school in New York. I knew a couple of people, and we got an apartment together. It was a couple of guys and me, but I needed someone to share my room. And someone said, oh, there's a girl in the department who is looking for a roommate too. I remember the first time that she came over, she was a little intimidating to me. She had a shirt on that was all cut up, like she had taken scissors and cut it up on purpose. She sat on the couch opposite me and kind of just took over the room. The 2 guys were like, just like staring, which of course I didn't like at all. We lived in a sort of modern high-rise apartment building called University Towers. She was fun to live with. Once we got to know each other, she could be so sweet and very affectionate, a lot of teasing, a lot of double entendre, a lot of a sense of being ally. She needed an ally. In the ground floor was Miller's ice cream parlor, and we both got jobs there at the same time. And I remember the woman who hired us was this big woman named Barb, and she was really tough. And in the interview, she said, "You girls have to wear bras." And so we had this big discussion when we got back up to the room. Okay, are you going to wear a bra? I mean, I'm not going to have her tell me whether I'm going to wear a bra or not, and that sort of thing. She could make anything look good, like an old man's shirt that I didn't want anymore, and she would like raid it out of my closet, and she'd put it on, and I'd look at it and I go, "Wait a minute, that looks really good. Why did I throw that out?" And then of course she'd keep it. Hello, in here, this is Madonna. Are you there? She scrounged everything she had. She borrowed. She stole stuff. She, you know, it was all about obtaining. Down in the basement of Miller's was where they kept all the food. We would go down and get frozen fish and cans of soup and, of course, ice cream. And so that's what we lived on. I hate to say it. A night after we'd been out dancing, got home at 2 or 3 in the morning, she'd be up at maybe 8 o'clock in the morning, out the door, and in the dance department.
She was an excellent student, very disciplined. I remember her standing always in the front row. She got into many major dances that we did that would normally not even cast undergraduates, much less a freshman. One of the highlights for me was a duet that I made for her with Josh Cabot, which is a kind of male-female confrontation, face-to-face. It was sexual. She has to roll on him and be on her hands and confront him. She really, I think, uses all of her power that she had then to do it. She was very, very small. I bet she weighed less than 100 pounds. And so she didn't have a lot of power and strength. There's a softness and actually a vulnerability that's really beautiful that comes out. There's no question in my mind that she would have been a professional dancer if she wanted to have gone that route. I remember going dancing with her and Christopher Flynn. So now this is not something that I did.
The Rubaiyat was a gay bar in town. It was the best place to go dancing. It was the only place to go dancing.
That she could go discoing with her teachers as a freshman was kind of a big deal. I mean, freshmen didn't go out dancing with their teachers.
The mission was, as you got to the dance floor, to clear the place out so that we would be in the center of the room and everybody else would just like cut us all out of space. One time we were dancing together and we were both really into it and having a great time, and she slugged me. She didn't intend to slug me, but she really nailed me good. She kept dancing and I went in the bathroom and put cold water on my face till the swelling went down. And I went back onto the dance floor and she seemed really impervious to that. Seems like if you were dancing with somebody and your hand made really strong contact with your face that you would know it, right? I think I told her, I said, "Hey, you slugged me," but I don't remember her being particularly apologetic.
First met Madonna in Christopher Flynn's ballet class. Madonna was, I think, a favorite of Christopher's, definitely. He liked to use her to demonstrate the way he liked the dancing done. I remember thinking, this kid's going to go somewhere. I had designed a dance that was based on a street scene, a theatrical dance. Madonna was a very theatrical performer. So she was one I asked immediately to be in my dance. Each dancer did a solo, and they would dance in front of their images. One of the photographs I took of her she didn't think was flattering. It was a shot where she's sort of bending over and looking between her legs. It sort of showed how Madonna would try something just to be outrageous.
It just was sort of her MO all the time. Just being a little outrageous and trying to attract a lot of attention. And if you went into a room, like a party or something like that, you could feel everything in the room kind of changing so that all of a sudden she was the focus of the room.
Madonna's early struggles, in fact, she lost her mother, I think, always made her needful of that kind of attention.
I did feel that the driving force was a little rooted in need. She talked about her mom and how much she missed her. And when my mother would call me on the phone and we'd be talking, I would look up and I'd see her standing there sort of listening to us. She was sad. Give me comfort in your arms. There were moments when we were alone together and we were just talking where I just felt like, okay, this is who she really is. You know, this is an unguarded moment. we collided in this interesting way because she appeared to want to be my friend and made great protestations of affection and love for me and so on and so forth. And so just simply a friend, a girlfriend love. There was never anything sexual between us. Though there was a lot of physical affection and hugs and kisses and so on, but in a Victorian way. Whether that was genuine or not, who knows? I did feel that for all our closeness, that I wouldn't put it past her to walk out the door, go hang out with somebody else and, say something about me.
My sense of Madonna was that she didn't waste time.
She didn't want to spend 4 years getting a degree.
Her passion was herself, the project of Madonna.
I think she was tired of the preparation work that goes into being a performer, and she wanted to go out and make her mark.
She wanted to move on, which we supported.
Madonna had decided to go to New York. She was a little nervous, you could tell. The last time I saw her and spoke to her was when we put her on the airplane.
She had one foot out the door, in terms of our friendship.
Coming up,
Don't look back. Don't think about what you're doing.
the film role inspired by Madonna's real-life struggle for success.
I'll do anything for money. Because money is my love.
Madonna clearly wanted attention at all times.
She had to be noticed, and she made it her business to be noticed all over the world.
I don't know that she wanted to be a star as much as she wanted to be a success.
Secretly, I'd love to know what it feels like for a girl.
I first encountered Madonna at the University of Michigan at a scholarship audition for the American Dance Festival. We had about 80 dancers, and I saw among the 80 this very thin, dark little girl pushing herself around, working very hard, and I thought, that's interesting, let's take her. Toward the end of the course, she said to me, do you think you're going to need any dancers in New York? I said, Madonna, you've got to go home to Michigan first. And how are you going to get to New York? And how are you going to live there? She said, don't worry. She was young, and she was determined to do it right and well. November rolled around, and I was teaching a class, and the door opened, and there was Madonna. She had come. One day she came in with a sweater cut from the neck all the way down to below the waist. Cut. And a safety pin about a foot long holding this garment together, but it was dripping off of one shoulder. And I looked at her back, and I thought to myself, she's going to do something someday. She came with, I believe, one or two other people from Michigan. They found a closed-up synagogue where they were living, and I was worried about her. I got her a job at the Russian tea room in the cloakroom. The arrangement was that they would feed her, because I was really worried about how she's going to eat in New York.
I had a small group of artists that met in my studio on 29th Street on Thursday evenings. So Madonna came, posed for me for a couple of times there, and from that we worked for about a year together. She was a Lower East Side girl, and her look was that. I was inspired by Michelangelo's Sistine Ceiling. I did a whole series of body drawings. From that, I worked on this idea of doing a series of Sibyls.
Strike the pose.
She had this extraordinary way of looking different when she moved, changed the direction of her glance. That led into this more complicated painting. It was a back view of a nude. I wrapped the stuff around her head, and it looked like a turban. There was always something very special about her beauty. Mostly in the eyes, I think. She was very cooperative, but she wouldn't do it for nothing. This was her livelihood. She made a big $10 an hour. Lee Friedlander, who was a very prominent photographer. He would ask me to send him a model every now and then. Madonna was one of the models that I sent to him. He did a whole series of photographs of her. He'd gone to see this film, Desperately Seeking Susan, and he said, "Is that the same Madonna?" And I said it was. And it was shortly after that that he sold the photographs to Playboy. I think he got a lot of money for that, too. First time I met Madonna was when the Gilroy brothers said, "Come on over and catch a rehearsal." They were called Breakfast Club at this point. Dan and Ed, the Gilroy boys, were on guitar, and Madonna was on drums. She wasn't a great drummer, but neither was Ringo. Angie Schmidt was the one on bass. The Gilroys wanted me to come back on bass instead of Angie. Madonna mostly was drumming for like 8 of the 10 songs, and she would come out for her 2 songs as a front person. Madonna literally wanted to actually reverse the whole thing. Instead of her being 20%, she would do 80 and they would do 20. But it was really their band, and they didn't want to go that route. I left the group with Madonna and started a new little group. And we were auditioning drummers, but none of them were working out, so she contacted Stephen Bray. I guess he responded positively because he came to New York.
I think the first time I saw Madonna was 1977 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. There was a hustle lesson at this discotheque. She likes to say that she offered to buy me a drink, but it was the other way around. It was kind of just a social friendship. After she moved to New York, I found out that she wasn't studying dance anymore. She was in a band.
She came to me one day and she said, "You know, dancing is difficult. I think I'd like to be a rock singer." She said, "A friend of mine is writing some songs and we're going to audition them. There's an agent here from Paris." And she left, and I thought, sure, okay, fine. And she came back the next day and she said, "You know, they took us, and I'm going to Paris next week." I never saw her after that.
She had been hired to be part of the Patrick Hernandez review. Although, you know, it was an interesting experience, she didn't really like it. I think she got a lot of good clothes out of it, but she basically did what she could to antagonize her keepers and get out of there. Because being in the chorus line wasn't in her game plan.
I had made a few films in high school, Super 8 films, and then in 1979, I thought, wouldn't it be a lot of fun to make a feature-length Super 8 film? So I put an ad in Backstage magazine looking for a dominant woman who knows how to act and dance. I was able to attract 400 pretty boring resumes. There was a photograph that actually dropped out of this envelope. She was putting lipstick on. I looked at it and thought that my fantasies were being realized. And I read her resume. It was a 3-page handwritten letter. Dear Stephen, I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, where I began my career in petulance and precociousness. By the time I was in 5th grade, I knew I either wanted to be a nun or a movie star. 9 months in a convent cured me of the first disease. That made me realize in about 3 seconds that this is the person that I wanted for this movie. I was interested in exploring a theme of revenge.
You think for once that any lover of mine could be tamed? Right now they're like irritating hornets, and they want to sting, and that's why I'm scared.
She was very directable. She would do what she was asked to do, and then make it into what she wanted to.
We're all caught in this vacuum of dominance and submission.
There was a scene that began as a sketchy idea. What would it be like to imagine this dominatrix type person with 3 lovers, and she tells them she no longer wants to be their dominatrix? And what would the reaction be? Madonna pretty much took it from there. They kind of wrestled with each other in a sort of improvised, choreographed scene, kind of in slow motion, them all sort of tangling with each other. It's fairly erotic. there were moments when things would happen in front of a camera that were just remarkable. The highlight of making the movie was renting a limousine and riding around Times Square with these crazy people, having a lot of fun. She and Angie were really good friends. The skylight was open in the limousine, so the sun was coming down on them. All of a sudden, they just break into this rendition of Let the Sun Shine. It's quite fetching, actually, but of course, they had no place in the movie. She had to pay her rent one month, and she said she wanted to get paid. There must have been 200 people that were involved in this movie, and the only person that was paid was Madonna. I said, all right, Madonna, if I pay you $100, you need to sign a release. At that time, I hadn't had people sign releases. Again, you have to understand the level of professionalism here. So she signed the release. I finished the movie in 1984. Coincidental with that finishing, Madonna was starting to become famous. I called Madonna up and I said, well, Madonna, I finally finished the film. So she came over to my apartment and I enjoyed watching the movie. She was positive. She liked it. But then she said, F you when she left. And I said, well, F you too. In 1985, Madonna sued me to stop the movie. And I had her signed release, which was a critical piece of paper. And the best $100 that I ever paid.
Coming up,
I'm doing what I want to do, all right, and I know you're going to like it.
rare footage of Madonna paying her dues in Clubland.
I think anyone made Madonna. I think Madonna made Madonna.
Just listening to her, I had no doubt in my mind that she would be able to attain everything she aspired for.
There was no pretense in what she was doing. It wasn't, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be that. It's more like, I am this.
I called Madonna to say, hey, I'm coming to New York. She had this band. She said, well, I need a drummer. I've got a set full of tunes, and I actually have gigs. Now, I don't think she really did have the gigs at the time. We hooked up on the corner of 38th Street and 8th Avenue. There's this building converted to rehearsal studios. Madonna had secured a loft, and we went up, and she played me the songs that they had, and we just kind of jammed the first day. I was excited to find that she had written some solid songs.
Like, what are we going to call ourselves? Let's just call ourselves Madonna. It's a catchy name. It's kind of rock and roll. But Steve hated that. No, I'm not going to play in a group called Madonna. And he said, well, if we can't call it Madonna, my nickname used to be Emmy, so we'll call it Emmy.
Her performance was probably, you'd grade it a 10 for energy and enthusiasm. She belted. She screamed. The differences between the stage persona and who she was off stage, at least around me, was just, there was more vulnerability. But there was also the softer kind of, I'm not quite sure what to do about this. I never hear her be that way in public. The magnetism theory of rock and roll is that, get really good and we find a record label A&R person that would say, oh, you guys are the cat's meow, and we kind of suck. I mean, we didn't suck bad, but we weren't that good. After a crashing, thunderous ending of their beat. You kind of hear that. 3 or 4 people's hands clapping.
I met Madonna in 1979. I had been working on a film at the time, An Artificial Life, which was about a group of disparate characters. Everybody in the film was essentially themselves. All the people wrote their own parts, and hers was a story about herself, using snippets of her poetry, almost fantasies of her transforming from walking down the street to this highly coiffed rock star.
When you get out of bed and you scratch your head, you stroke your cat, you've got a rest. You take a bath, you go down a drain, but you're not afraid because you're not insane. She
was enjoyable to watch because you knew you were getting the real person, and you weren't getting a veneer she put on. She had a fairly sober childhood, and at this point she's willing to do what she had to do. She came up with the line, "I'll do anything for money,"
I'll do anything for money, because money is my love.
which was sort of the drift of the whole film, in the sense of having to get things done to get to another place.
Don't look back. Don't think about what you're doing. Just mix it up.
There had been some very lean and desperate hours. We basically were eating yogurt, and should we put the peanuts in the yogurt or have them as an appetizer? And at some point, Camille Marbone came into the picture. Camille had an office and studios in the same music building. Her partner, Adam, ran into Madonna in the elevator.
I was downstairs waiting for one of our clients to arrive, and then Madonna was just kind of skipping through the lobby and inadvertently gave me some flirtatious little remark how I resembled John Lennon. I certainly immediately thought, what does she want from me? You know? Madonna had asked me if I knew anybody that could help her or further her in her career. She had an energy about her. I don't think she was going anywhere with Emmy. So I said possibly. I got her studio number and I spoke to my partner. Camille also liked what she saw.
Camille and Adam were partners in this production company. Their focus was developing new acts. Camille sort of was her knight in shining armor because she basically took her in, provided food and a place to live. The necessities were getting handled.
Madonna was not much different than your average spoiled brat. She got a weekly allowance. If she needed equipment, Gotham would purchase that for her. We gave her studio time, however much she wanted. She would stomp her heels and I want. We really, we wanted to get rid of those things. We really did. It was like watching a kid play when she went into the studio. She was always just beaming.
Camille seemed to be the Svengali of the situation, where she was like the teacher. Okay, this is how you're going to be. You're a rock star now. You're not like in the band anymore. You're the star. They're the band.
Camille had sort of convinced Madonna that she would represent her, but she didn't want to keep her band. She just wanted Madonna. So that was the end of that.
Camille was pointing the car more towards a Pat Benatar kind of a place. Leotards and headbands and leg warmers. So that was going on downstairs, while upstairs I'm working on the kind of more dancier stuff.
We knew we needed more than just Madonna. We needed to hire about 3 or 4 people for a more professional sound. And we held rehearsals and auditions. Madonna's choices weren't always Camille's choices for the band members, but we did relinquish one member for her, which was Stephen Bray, the drummer.
I was brought into the Gotham situation with, it was like probation, because I was a known dangerous element.
They had a personal connection, an emotional connection. We polished about 4 tunes, and we immediately had some interest in Madonna.
There was a great potential for success there, but as a unit, there was definitely not any kind of momentum.
She'd sit around and pout and sulk, but Madonna had a real, strong will about her.
It was always, okay, well, that didn't work, so what are we going to do now? Something's not right yet, so let's figure out what it is and let's make it better. And Madonna was working with Camille downstairs on rock and roll, and I'm working on dance-oriented tracks upstairs. I started to ask Madonna, hey, will you come sing on this? I know we're doing this other thing with Camille, but that tape that we made had everybody on it. She'd take the cassettes over to Danceteria.
The first time I met Madonna was at a nightclub, and I remember seeing this woman out of the corner of my eye, and she was wearing a white dinner tailcoat, a white old crumpled shirt, some sort of white cropped pants. I think probably the third sentence she said was that I want to be the most famous woman in the world. And I just thought, who is this chick? We talked about music and going out dancing. We would meet and, put our makeup on and spike up our hair or shave it off. We were out every single night of every single day of the week, of the month. We'd have our pockets full of whatever. I would have lip gloss and she would have her demo tape. She was a smart girl.
There was some kind of collision
that was going to be inevitable. Camille shopping the rock persona tapes and then dance music being shopped personally by Madonna.
She had a roadmap in her head of where she wanted to bring her talent.
It eventually became clear to her that, you know, I don't think I am going to be Pat Benatar. As Madonna's vision for herself grew, it became more clear that she would need people that could support her in her own goals, as opposed to people that were going to impose their goals on her.
Madonna, I would say, had a selective kind of loyalty towards people. Gotham management dissolved and we went our separate ways. I never got a thank you from Madonna, nor did I expect it.
Coming up, the place where it all came together.
Had it really all together in terms of the package, in terms of her look and the music.
Back then, I had no idea that Madonna was going to become the superstar that she has become. And my guess is that no one did. And if they did, they're lying.
Hey, Mr. DJ.
Around 81, we opened a club called Danceteria, which became almost like an Andy Warhol kind of scene where everybody who worked at the club were promising artists. Madonna would hang out, be one of the regulars there. When Madonna danced, there was always a group of people that would surround her and watch her moves. And Madonna would come to the DJ booth with a cassette, and I gave it a listen and thought it was great.
I remember being on the second floor and hearing her demo tape and dancing to it and feeling really high and happy.
I liked it, and the floor liked it.
People didn't say, what the hell is this?
These tapes were going over real well at the club.
I was doing A&R at Island Records, and I played the song for Chris Blackwell, who passed on Madonna. Also at the time, I had just finished working with David Byrne, Talking Heads, so I had a relationship with the people up at Sire.
I gave him $18,000. I said, try to bring me 4 or 5 or 6 demos. And the third or fourth thing that he brought me was Madonna. I was in the hospital, and I was so blown away by the one song, Everybody, that I asked him to bring Madonna to the hospital.
She got a singles deal. I was really very excited because I figured, okay, there's got to be more than $6 in this for me. But there wasn't, because they wanted Mark to produce and not me.
My producing career exploded. I wasn't left in the dust like a lot of other people. It's great to produce a record and watch it climb the charts.
They approached me saying, Madonna is doing a showcase. Can you videotape it? We got $1,000 to spend on it.
I remember discussing with her, well, what do you want to do on stage? And then the light bulb, why don't you have some dancers? I remember her saying to me, I should audition some dancers. And then I said to her, I'll dance for you. And then she said, you can audition for me. I thought, all righty then.
Up until then, Madonna was never shown. Photographs were not released. People thought she was a black singer.
I didn't know who Madonna was, other than she was this girl who was singing in some clubs downtown and had a little heat going for her.
Hi, Madonna. I'm from Detroit, and I'm 21. I sing my I have 24-track songs that I sing live to, so the music sounds a lot like the record. This song that's like out on the radio right now, it's called Everybody. It's about getting people to dance and lose their inhibitions. So I like taunt my dancers and get them to get up and do different things on their own.
The look was very unique, so we were quite excited, and then she read.
Look, Danny, you play games and I play games. We're both just too good at it. You didn't expect anything real to happen between us, did you?
The role that Madonna came in for was to be a love interest girlfriend for the character of Danny. And she was supposed to be a nice, plain, simple, virginal girl next door.
So where were you last night? You're supposed to meet me at 7 o'clock. I waited 45 minutes in the library.
You did?
Man, see what I mean? You asked me out to see how long I'd wait for you and you wouldn't show up.
The reading was very stiff, and it just sounded phony.
Look, Danny, let's just make like 2 shifts to pass the night, okay?
I don't think we have any regrets that we didn't choose her for this role. I think the regret comes that we didn't have the foresight to change the role and then hire her.
but hey, next.
She just really knew that if she wants to get known, we have to get out there and perform. We'd go on these long road trips and do these track-nature television shows. See, we were used to dancing in New York. Once you leave the vortex of New York City, the world kind of is a different place.
Here's Madonna and everybody.
Madonna needs an audience, and that was evident. Madonna was trying to do fashion, and we were trying to sing and trying to dance and trying to do art. She really wanted to be a solo artist. She really wanted her audience to see who she was.
I'm doing what I want to do, all right? And I know you're going to like it. All right, we're going to take a holiday. Come on, I can't hear you. Ooh, yeah.
There weren't any female artists happening at the time, so she really kind of had the whole stage to herself. I knew after Holiday that Madonna was ready to rule the planet.
She wouldn't have become a star if she didn't always want to become a star.
If she hadn't been a beautiful woman, this probably wouldn't have happened.
The person that I knew in 1977 now has control of the planet.
Maybe she'll write a book and tell us the secret to her success. And then do a movie.
All this wonderful talent, all she was really searching for the whole time was recognition and love, just like we all are. Probably that's the real reward for this whole journey for her.